Hello everyone. Welcome to the 21st episode, Cyber Monday edition of the Bold Moves podcast. My name is Mandy Mucci and I am the host of the podcast. On Mondays, I like to give interviews with inspirational and motivational people who have made bold moves outside of their comfort zones that have paid off for them in the form of fantastic rewards for both themselves and the people around them, and sometimes even the world at large. Today is no exception. I had a fantastic interview with Angela Wright, who is an entrepreneur who is originally from a farm in England, but moved not just across the country, but across the world to an entirely different continent in Australia. Her purpose in life is to live heaven on earth, which I don't know about you, but that sounds absolutely fantastic for me. She had such amazing insight to offer, and I was so inspired and motivated by just talking to her, and I know that you are going to feel the same way. I will caution that the audio quality on her end is a little bit shaky sometimes, but I promise you it's absolutely worth listening to. Also, as always, there is a giveaway, so stay tuned till the end to check it out. And without further ado, here is my interview with Angela Wright. All right. Hello, everyone. I have Angela Wright with us. She's coming all the way from Australia. Is that correct?
That's right. Hello, and it's morning in Australia. We're always ahead of most of the rest of the world in Australia.
So yeah, it's actually Thanksgiving in Australia, although that's an American holiday, and it's about 2 p.m. on Wednesday here. So you are ahead of the world.
We are. Happy Thursday.
Yes, happy Thursday to you too. I will be tomorrow, especially since I get to eat. All right, so why don't you give our audience a little bit of a Cliff's Notes version of your story? As you know, this is the Bold Moves podcast, so I'd love to hear about the bold moves that you've made that have brought you here.
Thank you so much, Mandy. It's so nice to be here talking to you and to everybody. So my bold moves, I think there have been many. When I was a child growing up in the UK, growing up on the farm in England, I imagined this perfect place, this perfect world where there were lots of friendly people. I was an only child for 8 years, so there were friendly people around and little paddocks of ponies and guinea pigs and trees to climb. And of course, as a child on a farm, I would make dens in the Dutch barns and so on. So I imagined this amazing world, and I lived in this fancy world quite a lot. And then when I had my first son, I was thinking, how can I make my magical childhood real for him? How can I recreate my childhood? So I drew back on those memories of creating this fantasy world, and I actually created a theme park. And I spent about 2 years on the business plan and imagined everything that was going to work, right down to the sandwiches we would sell and the ingredients and the costing of them. So very detailed business plan, both creatively and financially. And we managed to create it. So we opened our theme park. It was called Creeley the Great Farm Adventure then. It's now called Creeley Adventure Park. And opened that in 1989 in the UK. And it went on to be the southwest of England's favourite family day out. It's just won another award, still going now, 20 odd years later. And we grew that. I was managing director for 20 years. And owned that with my family. And we ran our theme parks, opened the second one as well, created some amazing family accommodation, luxury camping and holiday cottages and so on. And so we created a theme park and lived and ran that for 20 odd years. Brought up my 5 children in the end, living on the theme park on one side. And so that was quite a bold move as a farmer's daughter, from a little child playing and imagining. And in those days, we didn't call it visualization or manifestation, it was imagination. And Einstein says, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is pretty damn important. So that was, I guess, my first bold move. And then as a teenager, I came to Australia and loved it, really loved it. And we've been fortunate to travel all over the world. And a few years ago, my husband and I realized all of our children are growing up so fast, some had already left home, and we've been delivering adventures for millions of people for decades, working double shifts, loving it, don't get me wrong, but putting in huge hours. Because it's like running a little city when you run a theme park. There's always something going on, from engineering, catering, to accommodation, to health and safety, to marketing, you know. And so we thought, we've delivered all these adventures and we've had great times ourselves as a family. But what if we took a few years and had a real adventure with our family before they've all grown up and gone? So our next bold move was to emigrate to Australia. We came out in 2010 for 2 years, that would fit in with the kids' schooling, and thought, if we love it, we'll stay. And here we are still. It's beautiful. We live in a place called Sunshine Beach in Noosa, which is in Queensland, southeastern Australia. So if I look across the sea, you're on the other side. You're the nearest one. I look out to sea. So that was one of our bold moves as well. And other bold moves, I suppose, we came here very fortunate. We had some time. We could really think, well, what's really important to us? And there's two things, really. One is health, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And the other is financial health, because money is energy. People get really hung up about money. And if anybody says, oh, money's not important, it doesn't matter to me, it's not like that, you're really fooling yourself, because money is energy. It's captured energy. Somebody has dug a ditch or painted a painting or, you know, baked a cake or whatever it is to create that. And so you need to be healthy in all aspects of your life, I think. So we looked at that really, we help people with their business growth, and also we have our own health businesses, helping people with oral health, which all health starts in the mouth, right? So oral health is vital, and with supplements as well. So those are some of our bold moves.
Wow, that's awesome. So when you're saying our, who are you referring to aside from?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really family oriented. So myself, my husband David, and as I said, we've got 5 kids, and now 3 little grandies as well. So yeah, it's just that the older you get, the more one realizes independence is a junior stage of thinking. So when you're a baby, you're dependent. Right. And when you're a teenager, you might think you're independent, you know, you can drive and you can make these choices. But actually, when you're an adult, you realize we're all interdependent, all of us. And so, you know, your well-being in part is my well-being. And so we're all interdependent as human species, with our animals, you know, with the health of our planet. We're all interdependent. So I guess that's what I mean as well.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's really refreshing to hear that, because I feel like our society really focuses on a lot of times everyone looking out for themselves and not really interdependence. So that's a really refreshing attitude to hear. I love that.
I think part of that, Mandy, is it's easier to control people when they are separate. And if you have children, a lot of children, like we do, you've heard the expression divide and conquer. You know, divide and conquer. United we stand, divided we fall. And so, you know, if you have children that are squabbling and so on, you want to split them up a little bit and distract them with different things. And it's the same with people. And, you know, we have to remember that the financial world is run by corporations.
Right.
You know, the banks are owned by corporations. Big businesses exist for their shareholders and their senior staff and owners. And so all of those people have vested interests. Nearly everybody has a vested interest, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to think, well, what's really important to me? And we know now that you know, from masses of research, relationships are what actually delivers happiness. Yes, of course, your body has to be in sync. You know, you need the right supplements. You need to detox. You need all of those things, you know, physically, but emotionally, spiritually, which manifests into physical results, we need relationships. So interdependence is most important.
I love that. So I think, I mean, just thinking myself, especially imagining as a kid, you know, I think everyone who's ever been to some sort of a theme park or amusement park probably is like, I never want to leave. What's it like? So I'm imagining that people are probably watching or listening and wondering more about what that's like. So do you want to share any like amazing stories? Or, I mean, I guess you compared it to a city, which makes sense that, you know, there's so many different moving parts, you know, literally and figuratively, but what was it like?
Oh, sure. I mean, anybody that runs a business will relate to this in part because it's not about me thing. And when you run a business, you're dependent on, you know, your customers, your community, your suppliers, what people say about you, mainly what people say about you, etc. So running a theme park is like that, but times multiple, because you know, you're reliant on your gardeners to make sure, and your groundsmen to make sure that, you know, the car parks are right and everything looks good when people arrive, and your chefs and your kitchen team and your servers to make sure that they can get their, you know, tea and coffee and food. And people judge you on the state of the toilets and the quality of the coffee or tea, you know, largely. Rides. Of course, we had to be very obsessive about health and safety because you're entertaining, you know, hundreds of thousands of guests. We called our customers guests. And so health and safety is paramount. So we'd have, you know, 3 different safety checks in the mornings before we could open the doors, before we could open the rides and so on. But some stories, people just come to have fun. Our mission was maximum fun guaranteed. And so people would just come to have fun. So they forget about perhaps being as careful as normal. So on more than one occasion, we've actually had children left behind at the end of the day. And it sounds shocking. I can sympathise. This is by accident. I can sympathise because very often families would meet together and they might come in more than one car. And so they think the child's gone in a different car. And so I get a call from reception. Angela, I have a small child here, left behind. The parents aren't here. and because we lived on park, my children would be, you know, in and out of the office and seeing me on park. And I remember 2 of my boys coming in and saying, Mum, there's a small child. Can we take him home? So one time it was a little girl, and we took her home and we gave her supper, and she was only about 6, I think. So we were trying to say, you know, so where are you? She was on holiday, you know, she didn't really remember. She was trying to give descriptions of where she lived. We were phoning around she was obviously at a caravan park. We were phoning around these different places trying to find her. Anyway, the parents, obviously, they realised to their horror 2 hours later when they drove home or back to their house, you know, the car and the child's missing. So of course they came back. So that was like 5 hours later by this time. And another time, there was a little boy left behind, a little tiny boy, and his parents weren't quite so diligent, and they had a few issues, I think, a few personal issues. And this little boy ended up being looked after by our reception staff and had fallen asleep. And one of my boys came and said, Mum, there's this little boy, and his parents aren't very nice, so can we keep him?
Like a stray cat, just, he's ours.
Yeah. We didn't get to keep him, sadly.
He might wish that you did.
Yeah, we did. We've had lots of other kids that have come to live with us. We've been very lucky. So we've had various teenagers that have lived with us for 6 months or 12 months or whatever. So we're very blessed. And, you know, I think the luckier you get, the more you get to share. And when I started meeting successful people, I realized that successful people are really generous. They're generous with their time, they're generous with their knowledge, because it's not the knowledge, it's not having the knowledge. And, you know, if you're watching this thinking, what should I do next? It's not about buying the next tool. It's not about learning the next thing. It's about taking action, imperfect action, because we're all perfectly imperfect. And it's all about taking action, even if it's not right, it's taking some action so that you can, you know, reach some of the other people that you've chosen to serve in whatever business you do or whatever community focus that you have.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I know that I've been guilty of hoarding online courses and books and listening to podcasts and then not doing anything with it. So
we all do. And I was with Marissa Peer a few times, who's a great therapist and coach. And Marissa's thing is, we all suffer from this dreadful disease called I am not enoughness. And again, it's partly it's society, because we're bombarded now on a daily basis by more than 3,500 adverts a day, right? And most marketers know that the way to sell is to convince people they're not enough, and to frighten people, and to make out that you'll be out of the tribe, or people won't respect or honor or love you if you don't have this latest whatever it is. And so we're bombarded with these messages, and most people don't have a strong enough filter to say, actually, I am enough. I don't need that, whatever it is, to be me. You know, we're like the lilies of the field. We're all enough, actually, but we do need to take action to share whatever it is we're here to do, whether it's, you know, whether you're a server in a cafe or you're an entrepreneur doing something else or whatever it is. It's taking action and trying to have that confidence. And we're all guilty of thinking, oh, I can't do it until I can't do it. But really, you know, you're here, you're perfectly imperfect like all of us. And it's about taking action. I strongly believe that. We don't always practice what we preach, and it's a constant struggle to get over that ego that's saying, oh, we can't do that, it's not enough. We are enough. We do know enough. We know more than most people about whatever it is we're specialists in. Yeah. And when you have other people who share so much knowledge, to reshare that and to enable other people to enjoy their lives more is really important, I feel.
I love that. And I feel like so many of us feel like you get far into your expertise, like you said, and it becomes natural to us, and we feel like everyone knows it. Like, for some people have told me, oh, you should do makeup tutorials. I'm like, well, I don't, you know, have that much knowledge or technique in doing it. I just, you know, happen to get random awesome makeup jobs. And it's kind of silly because there are people that are like, no, you know what you're doing. So yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying. And I think too, in addition to the advertisements we're seeing that are giving us the message that we're not enough, social media is playing into it too, because we see most people's highlight reels and then get caught in that comparison game. And then, you know, people, of course, there are some people who whine and complain about the worst parts of their day. But for the most part, it's like, well, here are pictures of my vacation, or here are pictures of after I've done my hair and makeup and made sure that I've filtered what you're seeing. So
exactly right. Yeah. What is the saying? If only your life can be as good as it looks on Facebook.
Right.
You know, of course, but also Facebook and Google, you know, at large, feed you things that they think you want to see. And so our view of the world is increasingly myopic, is increasingly unreal, because we are fed what they think we want to see. And large parts of that are adverts, native advertising, looking like posts. And of course, you know, nothing exists for free. You know, Facebook has had a big IPO, has a lot of shareholders, they need a return. Everybody that puts stuff on Facebook, they're investing either time or money or both. They have to have a return. And so part of this interdependence is, this interdependence mindset is recognizing what other people's needs are, and they don't normally correspond with yours. And so it's not being cynical, but it's about being a realist. So what's important for me, you know, and the people closest to me, you know, my partner, my kids, my family, my community, my staff, my customers, in no particular order. So what is it that's vital to me, instead of getting caught up in that comparison game or that fear of being not enough and being paralyzed so that you can't take action except consume? Because most of the big corporations just want us to consume. They don't want us to question. They don't want us to create. They want us to consume, right? So you're either really a consumer or a creator. And the more consumption you do, the less creativity you can do. So you can't do both. You know, there isn't like another you beside you that can be doing the creating, the content, the service, while you're consuming news feeds.
Right.
So you've got a choice.
That's a great perspective. Yeah. And I appreciate the wake up call personally too, because I definitely get caught up in the scrolling and
of course. In fact, there's a really neat little trick I'll just share with anyone listening, because it is addictive. And of course it's designed to be addictive. Facebook, Google, Instagram, etc. It's designed so that you want to stay on it. But take your phone and there's a little thing you can do to make it go black and white. And then you can press your little thing here 3 times and it goes to black and white, and 3 times and it goes to color. And I can't remember what it was, but just Google it. It's free. But it's proven that if your phone's in mono, in black and white, it's less addictive. And if you really need to see something in color, you press the little home button 3 times, it comes back to color. It saves a heap of battery life as well. So an entrepreneur friend of mine told me about this, who's very successful and is more of a creator than a consumer. So that's a good tip. Put your phone in mono and it'll be less addictive.
Very cool. I appreciate the bonus tip. So I know that you started off started off your story with creating the theme park, and you were a farmer's daughter before that. Were you in the corporate world or doing something else, like during the 2 years of the business plan, or, you know, before the theme park? And then I'm also curious, I know you moved to a new continent, so that obviously sparked some of the change. You probably aren't as active in running the theme park from afar, but it seems like you're in a completely different industry again. So I'd be really curious to hear about that transformation as well.
Yeah, sure. So before opening Creeley, I'd run a few small businesses, and I'd worked as well. After college and so on, I'd worked for other businesses. So I started my first business, if you want to call it that, to earn some pocket money when I was 10. So I was serving tea and biscuits on the lawn. Our house used to be open to the public. It was the birthplace of a famous Elizabethan explorer in Devon in England. And so I would make tea and biscuits, and I would buy the biscuits and get the milk from the farm. It was legal to do that then, and buy the tea bags and make the tea biscuits. So I started earning money that way. And then I was a freelance secretary to start with. And that's really interesting. And I strongly recommend, if someone's watching this and, you know, they're at uni or whatever, or haven't worked yet, work for somebody else. Work for as many different people as you can and see what it's like, you know, behind the doors, behind the desk, what goes on. I worked as a freelance secretary when I was very young for a whole heap of people, and some of them were amazing business people. Some taught me how not to do things, how not to treat staff and customers, but some were just inspiring, and that was excellent. And then ran a few businesses, so I was doing different things. But at the time, I had my first baby boy. Was actually expecting a second one, but I didn't mention that to anyone at the time because it all seemed that it would be too hard if I had 2 babies. So I just mentioned that, you know, it was obvious I had the first one, but I didn't tell anyone I was expecting the second. Well, I was doing the latter stages of the plan until it was all, yeah, we're definitely going to do this, we're going ahead. And then I said, might be a bit busy in 3 months' time, but, you know, it'll be fine. We'll cope. So I've always been working well. I tell you one thing that really disturbs me right now is when I was a younger woman, I really thought feminism wasn't needed as much anymore. Mm-hmm. And when I was having my babies, I worked full time, and I was always very discreet, you know, with the blanket and stuff. But if I took my babies to meetings, and if my babies needed feeding, and if I had to be there to communicate or hear, I would feed my babies. You know, turn my back and get the baby settled and covered up in a blanket and feed my baby. And I'd have a few shocked looks, especially from the guys who might have felt a bit awkward. But, you know, they would have been fed when they were hungry as babies. And maybe their mum was able to just do that and not be with someone, and maybe she wasn't. The bottom line is baby has to be fed. And if you're a working mother or a busy mother, doesn't matter if it's paid work or community work or whatever, if you're with your baby, feed your baby. You know, be discreet and be sensitive, but just get on with your life. And I find it really disturbing that there is such a lot of hatred, especially in some parts of America, towards breastfeeding and towards women. And it's quite shocking. And I think as women, you know, we really need to be warrior queens and stand up and say, you know, enough of this. You're not going to control us like this. You were a baby once. You had to be fed. I expect your mum had other things to do at the same time as well. And so, you know, just get over yourself, really. And so I think it's about that confidence and about standing together. So where were we? So we're talking about my businesses, what I did before. So I did various things before. And then while we were setting up, you know, you just carry on with your life. And instead of using but, if one uses and when you're talking, say, oh, I'd love to start a new business, but I have a baby. Well, I'd love to start a new business and I have a baby. You know, I'd love to go for a run, but it's raining. Well, well, I'd love to go for a run and it's raining. Not that I'm a runner at all. I'm terrible at that. But you know what I mean? If we give ourselves permission to do things instead of excuses,
Right.
Don't get me wrong, we all make them. We've all got undone things. But the more we have that's unfinished, the more exhausting it is. So it's better to either say, I'm not going to do that at all, and that's a conscious decision, or, yeah, I'm going to get on and complete whatever it is. Anyway, long answer to your short question.
I love that. You answered the first part, but not the second part. How did the transition from theme park in England to health in Australia occur?
Okay, good question. So running theme parks, we had a lot of staff, 250 staff or so, a lot of guests, hundreds of thousands of guests, quite vocal in the community. And I'm from a fairly big family as well, small immediate family, large extended family. And so people would often ask for advice. They might have asked for advice about business, like some business coaching, or about health advice. And here's two things I learned. One is you can't give anybody advice if they don't want it. There's no point. If you're running a business, you've got to find your tribe that wants that from you. You can't try and convince someone that doesn't want it, they want it. But when somebody does ask your advice, that's when they're ready to get it. So my dad, case in point, he suffered from gout for a long time. Mm-hmm. One day he said, Angela, I need you to find out some alternative treatments for gout. This is when I was still running theme parks in the UK, because my doctor can't fix it. It's driving me crazy. I'm, crippled with this gout, which is a form of arthritis. So I did a lot of research. I'd already looked into it a bit for him, but I hadn't shared it because he didn't want to know. So then I did a lot of research, printed it all off, took it up to him that evening and said, here you go, Dad, you'll never guess what the answer is. Go and buy a dozen cherries tomorrow and eat a dozen cherries a day. And here's the proof, here's the evidence. Now, of course, you need to make a few dietary changes as well. But anyway, he started eating cherries. Cherries fix gout, right? The vast majority of the time, if you know someone with gout, look it up, you can Google it yourself, and start eating cherries. And there's something in the cherries that affects that for you. And there's a number of other instances. And we've been taking tonics and supplements and so on for a long, long time. I'd always been deeply interested in water health, soil health, vibrational health, nutrition. As a farmer's daughter to conventional farmers using pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, fertilizers, I realized that all of that is making the soil dead. There's no humus in the soil. It's dead. So where are the plants supposed to get the goodness from? Where are they supposed to get the vitamins and minerals from if the soil is largely depleted? And then if you still eat meat or dairy, if those animals are eating plants, where are they supposed to get the minerals from? So it's pretty obvious. You can't magic things if they're not there. So I've been really deeply interested in supplements, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients for a long time. So when we came here and we had time, it made a lot of sense to look more into that. And I did a lot of due diligence, and I found a couple of places where there were remarkable products, remarkable techniques that you can use and raw ingredients you can use, but they weren't available at the right clinical dose, at the right price even, but just not available. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we created our two businesses, Get Your Boom Back, which is getyourboomback.com, and Minty Cocoa, which is mintycocoa.com. One has revolutionary formulas with genuine ingredients at the right dose. Those are our supplements like Amino Boosters, Amino Pure Plus, NeuroBoost, and Boostify, my happy booster, which is a serotonin boosting drink, which is amazing, works amazing to be happier. And Minty Cocoa is about oil pulling, which is about whitening your teeth and detoxing your body. And it's a 3,000-year-old technique, Ayurvedic technique. And yet when I started doing it, you could just only do it with raw oil in the morning. And it was messy. It was really, didn't taste good. You had to force yourself to do it. And I thought there's got to be a better way. So we created Minty Cocoa. And I've just made a children's version, brand new. Oh, see, I've got one. Hold on a second.
I've tried oil pulling and I'm not good at staying consistent with it. I agree that it's messy.
Yeah, it can be really messy. So we created these are our mouth monsters. You're some of the first people to see these. They're so cute. They're little sachets, you tear the top off, and your kids use them. And then for minty cocoa, which is here, we've got these little minty cocoa sachets here. So what I'm trying to say is, I had a real deep interest in this before, and did a lot of research and realized people need to be able to have access to this so that it works for them and their kids. So that's what we created. So those were our bold moves. So in fact, I was thinking about this morning before speaking with you, and it's very easy to think, well, who am I to do that? How can I possibly think I can take something that's the first in the world, and nobody's ever done this before, it's the first in the world, who am I to think I can do that and that people will want it? But then who are you not? Who are you not to do that? And if there's a need in the world, like the American Dental Association says that the #1 chronic childhood disease is tooth decay and gum disease. The #1 chronic childhood disease.
Wow.
And tens of thousands of children are having their rotten baby teeth pulled out under general anesthetic. This is preschool and junior school kids. Yeah. And this works. This solution works. And so we just made it easier for people and simpler and gamified it a bit. Because if you think, I've got a solution to something, it doesn't matter what that something is. It can be as small or as big as you like. But really, who are you not to say, yeah, okay, you can use this, you can do this.
That Marianne Williamson quote.
It takes confidence, and you're constantly distracted, which is why I was saying earlier about you're either a consumer or a creator, because when you're consuming, you can't be creating because there's not two of you.
Right.
So those were our bold moves about coming to Australia, why we created the health businesses, because we've always had this deep interest. We've done a lot of research before, and then suddenly we had the time. And also the need seemed greater. So a friend of mine is a dentist. I was talking to her yesterday, and she said she is shocked to the core at the state of children's teeth where she is in Australia. And she had just performed an extraction on a 6-year-old girl who had every single tooth removed under general anaesthetic. Oh. Now that is not unusual. Here in Australia, the Australian Dental Association reports children as young as 2 or 3 having teeth removed under general anaesthetic. And it is hard for parents because sugar is everywhere. Snacking is ubiquitous. It's very hard. Whereas if you have something that can detox the mouth, remove the sugar, and with this oil, it's all natural, organic, and so on. But what happens is it actually captures the microorganisms in your mouth. And in your mouth right now, I hate to tell you this, but there's probably 8 billion bad bacteria, viruses, fungi, and even parasites if you have a lot of bacteria.
I think a lot of people are going to be using mouthwash and brushing their teeth after they listen to this, or maybe while they're listening to it.
So oil pulling works. So however you do it, just do it. However you want to do it. If you want to make it easy, you can use some of my products, but just do it. That's the core thing. It's one of them. It's one of the primary things for your health. So that was our bold move to come to Australia and do some health businesses.
I love that. So obviously, a theme park and a health business are 2 very separate things, but I think when people start health businesses, it's not that crazy or different because hopefully everyone is concerned about their health and being an advocate for themselves all along while they do other things. So with, your business history and all of your jobs and everything you've done so far in mind, what would you say your purpose is?
Oh, my purpose is living like it's heaven on earth.
Oh,
yeah.
Just that? Yeah. I love that.
So it's very easy to put things off and say, oh, when I'm thinner, it'll be better, or when I've got a partner, it'll be better, or when I have a baby, or when I've got a bigger house, or whatever. But actually, look out the window, and it doesn't matter if the stars are out, or if it's raining, or snowing, or sunshiny. It's a beautiful world, yeah. And we know from research, as I said earlier, it's about relationships. It's about interdependence. It's not about having millions of relationships. It's not a competition. Right. Just one relationship with your neighbor is enough. One relationship with the store owner who gives you coffee is enough. It's about recognizing you haven't got to wait. You haven't got to wait for heaven. It's here. It's inside you, and you can make an impact. And just by smiling and just by consciously choosing forgiveness and gratitude, the two big emotions, Vishen Lakhiani proved that forgiveness causes the biggest spike in the brain. It's the biggest thing one can do. But it's hard to forgive yourself and to forgive others sometimes. But forgiveness and gratitude and being active, taking action, that's my purpose, living like it's heaven on earth.
I adore that. I know before we started recording, I was talking about the idea of giving a challenge to someone. And I told you that the challenge from last week, from the recording of this, not from the time this will play, but it'll be 2 weeks ago from when this will play. But one of the guests, Linda Mitchell, she's an amazing woman, a bikini competitor. She started in her 50s. She's written a book, all kinds of cool stuff. And her challenge was to, write your perfect day. And to not, be small about it, but to be crazy and feel like you're wild with it. And so I feel like that intertwines so well with your purpose every day. And that's fantastic. I'm always so inspired whenever I do these interviews, and then I go ahead and listen to them once or twice after too, because I'm like, okay, this is for everybody else, but I am probably getting the most out of it, and I'm not ashamed to say so. So thank you for that. So obviously, when you decided to move to a completely new continent, you'd been there before and you loved it, so that might not be scary. And when you made your plans for your business, obviously planning 2 years in advance and getting to as great detail as the ingredients and the foods you'd be offering, I don't know if it doesn't sound like you've ever been scared. Have you? What's a scary thing?
Yeah. One lives with fear. I think one lives with fear. But courage is about acting despite the fear. And, fear is just your ego trying to stop you from dying, basically. So your ego's job is to keep you safe, and the safest thing, and from a physical, like a reproduction point of view, is probably to carry on doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And yet we're here to evolve. I strongly believe that our souls are here to learn. That's the point of it all, is to learn. And just like you can see someone in the same job, but they might have done that job for 20 years, but they don't necessarily have 20 years of experience. They might be doing the same thing week in and week out. They've actually got like a week of experience, right?
Sure.
Whereas you see somebody else who's done something for 20 years, but they've grown and evolved and consciously moved the needle and consciously improved how they do things and how things are done, and sometimes changing well. And yet that's despite fear. So you have to think, is the fear serving me or not? Is it serving those around me or not? And if you retreat from that fear into distraction, into being a consumer, then the fear is won. And of course, we all have to have some downtime. It's really important to do that, otherwise your adrenals get shot and you can't function so well. And yet, fear is just a part of life, I think. And if you can harness the butterflies to pull your carriage of success, if you can use the butterflies in your stomach instead of being paralyzed by them, just imagine their beautiful little wings flapping to lift you higher.
I love that.
Just use whatever you're given. And use that and instead of but. So, oh my God, I've got butterflies in my stomach and it makes me feel so sick. And I would do it, but I've got these butterflies, so I'm actually going to go and watch some TV or scroll through Facebook. Or you can say, I've got butterflies in my stomach and they're lifting me higher. They're there to lift me higher, and I'm going to do it now. Even if I only spent 10 minutes on it and do this one thing, I'm going to do it now. And of course, we're all guilty of not doing this sometimes, because we're all perfectly imperfect beings. So, don't beat yourself up. Forgive yourself and be grateful for everything around you. that's I think living like it's heaven on earth, and recognizing fear is just one of the emotions, and it can be diminished by courage and taking action. Because when you take action, you worry less, because you have less time to worry. So you can either be inactive and consumed by worry and anxiety, or you can be too busy for that and, get moving.
I love that. So that's great advice for anybody who's afraid to do something and needs to push through that fear, is to use it. And I love that "and" instead of "but." That's really cool. So when you were a little girl, 8 years old, living on a farm in the UK, if you could get a crystal ball and look at you now, I don't know how old you are, but doesn't matter. If you were able to get in a crystal ball and look on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would you be to be where you are now?
That's such a good question. Yeah, I'd be 100% excited to be where I am now.
So at least 11.
Yeah, I think so, because where I grew up, there was a lot about tradition, and my parents were very innovative and go ahead, and yet a lot of the expectations were traditional, and because we met so many people coming to visit the house, I suppose I met some amazing people, and one of them is still a mentor today. Gail is in her 90s in London, and she's the most positive and the most positive person I've ever met. And so I've been very fortunate to have met some remarkable people who've been inspiring. So I think, again, it's about inspiring yourself, because then you don't know who you're going to touch and reach. And it may be that you're raising your baby as well as you possibly can, or it may be that you're doing a job as well as you possibly can, or you may be running your own business, or you may be serving your community in some way, or helping at your school, or whatever the hell it is. If you just think, right, today I don't know who I'm going to touch, but I am going to affect people. Whatever I do, I'm going to impact people. Whatever I do, it can be positively or negatively, or whatever, but you are making an impression on people anyway. So I think it's just about forgiving yourself and being grateful for what you've got, and doing your best for yourself and inspiring other people if you can, rather than being a negative influence on the world.
Sure. I love that. And I actually think that's my purpose, is to be the best version of me that I can be, so that I can inspire other people to be the best versions of them. But I wouldn't mind a little heaven on earth in the meantime. I might have to add yours in.
Nice. No, I'm sure you're doing an absolutely brilliant job, and I'm very grateful to you, Mandy, for inviting me here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So a couple more questions. One of them would be, it's already been a little bit interspersed throughout the conversation we've had, and you've given so many great tips, but if there's anything that you would give as advice to somebody who is potentially looking to follow their dreams in one way or another that you haven't already said, I know you've given so much great value, but what else would you recommend to someone, or advice you would give to someone, or just general life advice too?
I'm a big believer in writing it down. So get yourself a book, any book, diary, anything, and write down what you want to happen, and then think about what you want to happen. And that's the first step, really, to visualizing and manifesting. Because here's the thing: we're like receivers and transmitters,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole universe is here. And we can actually receive and we can transmit.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's very deliberately. You might do a lot of work and have a website and sell some stuff and do Facebook ads or whatever. But actually, it's all got to start here. And the clearer you are, the less distracted you are, the easier it is for things to happen. So I've manifested so many different things in my life, from a horse to my theme parks to the house I live in now has a white tower, and I saw that exact white tower 18 years ago.
Wow.
And we arrived here 6 years ago. So sometimes it's instant, sometimes it takes a while, but if you're clear, it's a little bit like being a Morse code operator. So you have a Morse code machine, You could have the best training, and you could be the best operator, and you could be sending a Morse code message to somebody who's equally as good and as competent at transcribing and understanding Morse code messages. But here's the thing. If you keep stopping mid-transmission, nobody will understand you.
Sure.
And it's the same with transmitting and receiving with the universe. If you keep stopping and getting distracted and jumping from one idea to another, nobody can understand you. But if you write down what you want to happen and constantly try and get back on course to that, it's a bit like flying an airplane. You know, flying an airplane from here, from Brisbane in Australia to, say, New York. Mm-hmm. The pilot is constantly correcting course. He's never going in a straight line, right? Or she, never going in a straight line, constantly correcting course. So most of the time, the pilot is off course. Maybe by a few degrees, maybe by a big detour because of weather, but off course. But here's the thing, you keep going, keep focused on your destination with that one intention, and you're gonna land.
Right.
But if you don't have the same thing in your life with what you want to achieve, as you just described, you're going to be all over the place. You're going to be going to this destination and this destination, and you're going to run out of fuel and time. So for me, it's about write it down in your own handwriting if you can, because there's something proven about connecting when you physically write and your brain. Okay, mm-hmm. So just write it down, and then just keep revisiting that, and just keep correcting your course to go to that direction. So you were talking about the perfect day. So I created a planner, and it's my perfectly normal day planner. And this is, how do you want to live like it's heaven on earth most days of your life? And it's not about what you're going to do on your day off or on your holiday. It's about what are you doing day in, day out? How do you want it to be? You know, how do you want to wake up? How do you want to have breakfast? How do you want to do this? And it's recognizing, yeah, you need some time for self-care, some time for financial stuff, some time for business or work, some time for community and give back, whether it's to your family or your partner or your neighbors or whomever, because that's what gratifies. So what does that look like? So I'm really happy to share that perfectly normal day planner with people. Look at my template and create your own. And that really helps, I think, say, so what is my life going to look like? And how close am I to that now? So write it down is my big thing. Write down what you want to do. Get clear on what you want to do. There's a number of techniques to find that, and then do it. And if you seriously want to change direction, consciously change direction.
Sure.
Deliberately stop what you're doing and say, I'm not going to do that now, or I'm not going to do that ever, or I'm not going to do it for 2 weeks or 5 months or 10 years, whatever, and now I'm going to do this. But, fly that plane, keep correcting the course, but get to that one destination and write it down, because that makes it easier for you.
I love that. I subscribe to Darren Daily, which is Darren Hardy's morning text service. He sends like a little video, and one of the stories that he told were that there were these boys in a field, and they wanted to do a contest with each other who could walk in the straightest line across the field. And one of the boys two of them looked very carefully at their feet, and one foot after the other tried to put them in a straight line. And when they got across the field, they realized that they had gone crazy routes, while the other one looked directly at something on the opposite side of the field and just focused on that and walked. And he, of course, walked the straightest line without paying attention to his feet because he was looking at his destination. So that sounds like the same advice that you're giving. I love that.
It's a great story. Love it.
All right. So another question. I know that you have some ebooks yourself, and I believe we are going to be doing a giveaway of those books. So if you want to talk about those a little bit and tell us what those are, and then also just any other book recommendations, if you were going to give like a life syllabus that, you can include enjoyment or you can include learning, but just books maybe that have been powerful in your past or enjoyable, that if you're like, hey, if you have some time, I recommend you read this, what those would be.
Yeah, that's a great idea. But there are so many books which are worth reading. I mean, just so many. But here's one. I don't know if anybody has read The Alchemist.
I love that book.
It's a story, and you can just pick it up and read it again, and you're going to get something different each time you read it, I think. So I would recommend The Alchemist. I just love that story for its simplicity and its readability. And from there are just so many that can be read. I have some ebooks of my own as well. One of them is about oral health, so 14 days to oral health, and explaining about oil pulling, so I'm really happy to give that away. Another one is about the truth about YT and amino acid supplements. It sounds a bit dry, but it's so important to understand about amino acid supplements, and I go into detail there about what supplements to avoid. For instance, there's a lot sold that contain things like shark cartilage. Now, consuming shark cartilage is a very bad idea on a number of counts. Number one, it's bad news if you're a shark. Number two, I tell you what, I won't go into all the details now because I'm conscious of your time, but you want to be really careful about what you take. Most supplement companies spend more on marketing than on ingredients, and understanding what you're taking is really, really helpful. So I'm happy to give that. But the book I'd most like to share that I've written is How Do I Become Successful? Because success has got different appearances for everybody. So if anybody wants to get that, you can jump on howdoibecomesuccessful.com, and I'll give you all of the others then. And I'll also give you my perfectly normal day planner, which I just think will be really helpful for a lot of people to decide, what do I want my day to look like? What do I want it to look like at different times of the day? And of course it's going to vary, and yet it really helps you stay on track, walking across the field in a straight line, or flying to the airport, or whichever analogy you want. But so those are some of the books. I could talk for hours about books. We've got a whole library here. I do love to read, and there are so many intelligent minds. If you can get inside of somebody's head, for the price of a book, or even an audio book, you can listen while you're driving. What an amazing gift that is.
Absolutely. As long as you don't get stuck consuming, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's why it's a real good idea to do that when you can, if you're doing something else. So instead of listening to the radio or some dreadful news program, which is really about selling advertising, so they're going to make the news more scary than ever, so that you stay and consume, and then the advertisers can be charged more on the side of the news slots, right? So instead of doing all of that, if you actually listen to an audio book or a podcast, or even a video, but just don't watch it while you're driving, just get the audio, that's a good way to consume without eating into your precious time. So if you're commuting or waiting in an airport or a station or driving or whatever, so that's possibly a good tip. Or if you're a runner, I wish I was, but I'm not. If you're a runner, you can listen then. So that's a good way to consume without eating into your own time.
I love that. Yeah, that's the most logical multitasking, in my opinion, is you're exercising or have to be still anyway and can listen. I love it. So usually we just give away one copy of something, but you're saying if anybody wants, everyone's a winner as long as they go to howdoibecomesuccessful.com?
Yeah, if you go to howdoibecomesuccessful.com, if you want to subscribe to that, then I'll send you the different books that I've written and my perfectly normal day planner. And I would love to see what other people's look like. If you want to share back, that would be really interesting.
Well, that's very awesome. Thank you. And everyone, you can go to the show notes, of course, as usual, and check out that link will be there. There will be links to other different things that Angela has done. You can see the pictures that she's sending me. So make sure you go to mandym.com/episode 21, and that's where all of that will be there. And then your social media links as well. You're going to share there, right? And in case,
I'd love to connect with people on social media, because if they're listening to you, Mandy, then they're going to be interesting people. So I'd love to get to know them.
Oh, that's awesome. And then in case anyone is doing exactly what you said and they are driving or running and can't, check it out right now, or maybe we'll forget to go back to the show notes, do you want to just say where they can find you on social media?
I'm sorry, say that again, where they can find
you on social media.
Oh, okay. So I'm on Facebook as Angela Wright, or you can look at Health Evolution on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, or my business is Get Your Boom Back, or Minty Cocoa Global. So you can find me in a number of different places on social media. Angela Wright, Get Your Boom Back, or Minty Cocoa Global, or Health Evolution. But I would love to connect with you online.
Yeah, awesome. And like I said, we'll have all those links too. Well, thank you so much for your time and your generosity. Everyone's a winner this time. So that's awesome. I really appreciate it. And I know that my listeners will too.
I'll tell you what we'll do as well. If you say that normally there's like a prize, what we'll do for anybody that opts in, I'll pick one and we'll give some free teeth whitening oral detox course. So we'll give some free Minty Cocoa, so 14 days teeth whitening course, which is also an oral detox, and we'll pick a winner for that. So yeah, thank you for suggesting that we have a winner as well. Thanks.
Oh, awesome. That's even better. Well, I am happy for that lucky winner, and thank you again for so much for all that you've given and shared. I've really been impressed and inspired, and I'm definitely ready to go create as opposed to consume.
Good for you. You're definitely a creator, Mandy. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Bold Moves podcast. If you liked what you heard, please share this. Please leave me a review. And if you think that you would be a great addition to the podcast, or you know somebody who would be, please send them my way, or come to my website and introduce yourself, or on social media, because I would like to keep this rolling with interesting and amazing guests from around the world. Now, I am so impressed with how generous she was, and how Angela is. I mean, she said the successful people she knows are generous, so that's probably why she's giving so much away. So everyone who goes and signs up on her site is a winner automatically, and then she's picking one of those people to win an extra prize. So make sure you check out the show notes at www.mandiem.com/episode, and then 2 and 1, because this is episode 21. And yeah, I guess for me, it is time to go brush and floss and oil pull, because just talking about the 8 billion gross bacteria in my mouth made me want to do that. I probably am not alone. All right, stay tuned for Friday so you can have a challenge from Angela to move outside of your comfort zone. And as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.